So in this lesson, we are going to look at the code of the previous lesson. We have seen the conversation analysis. So this is the code of the trainer of the conversation analysis. So like before, like in the case of custom vision, we have the training part as well as the analysis part. And this is the training part we are looking at. Although this has a lot of lines of code, this particular file is almost 500 lines of code. This is kind of mostly the training data in JSON format. We can put this data inside a separate file if you want, but for the time being, I have kept it here. Basically, it has nothing but the intent. So these are the different intents and utterances, and then the entities corresponding to that particular utterance. So the format is pretty straightforward. We have a JSON format file here, which is nothing but just a data structure in Python in this case, at least. Keys and values. We'll see JSON a lot in this training, and we have seen that before as well. Basically, nothing but dictionaries and arrays. That is what JSON is all about. So what I recommend is you yourself have a look at this particular JSON file. So it has project version, metadata, which is the name of the project, kind, and all different metadata related to the particular project. And the most important thing is the asset. Asset has entities, and at the same level we have intents, and then we have the utterance. So three things which are there. And these are the intents. Two intents are there. One is send and get time. So this particular model will be able to do two things at the end of the day, irrespective of the command user is giving or the chat user is going to give. It is either going to send or it's going to get time. That is the two commands or two intents it can do at the moment. So the idea is anything and everything user is giving, anything and every single utterance user is giving, convert it into one of these two options. That is what it is all about, at least from this particular training perspective. Now, it's all about parameters to this particular two commands or intents. Send, what to send where, whom to send. Those are the parameters required for send. And what about get time? So in this case, the get time is based on a place. For example, time in Sydney, time in Delhi, Tokyo, New York, London, and different places. So the parameter is the place. Get time of what place, what time zone. That is a parameter for get time in this particular case. So the idea is to understand this particular sentence and convert it to one of these commands or indents and extract the parameter. That's the idea here. After the training, the model should be able to do this much. That's the idea. Now, going to look at the asset, we have seen it has entities, utterance, and indents. So those are the three things, at least the important thing in asset. There is something called project kind and things like that we are going to ignore. Like I said, you need to have a look at this JSON to understand the hierarchies and levels and things like that. Now, looking at the entities, there is an entity which is the contact category. So there are pre-built types of parameters or entities. Person's name, so contact. This is for the send. Again, location, another type of entity. Geography.location is the type, pre-built type. There are other pre-built type we will see in the studio, but for the time being, these are the two. Category or the type of entity we are going to deal here. So what it takes, the model will be looking for this kind of information within the text we are giving. That's the idea. It'll look for name. So model already has an idea about how a person.name looks. For example, it knows that chair, table, camera, mic, laptop, those are not really names of people. On the other hand, things like Adam, Charlie, Dean, all are names. So it has an idea about person's name. It could be wrong, but it has an idea. The model is already trained about that. Now, same thing with this location. So we are telling the model that there is an entity, potentially is a location. Again, Adam is a location, probably not. Anand is a location, probably not. But London is a location. Sydney is a location. Delhi is another location. So it has an idea about the location. So this particular category is part of the pre-builds. Pre-builds are things which the model knows about, has an idea about. That's the idea here. So we have two entities, the location and contact in this particular case. Now, intent, we have already seen the intent. We have two intents. One is send and get time. No relation to each other. They're completely different. So the model can identify two intents. Anything and everything you throw at the model as text, it'll convert into one of these two things with differing amount of certainty. Now, finally, the main thing, the utterances or the text. So what time is in New York? That's an utterance. That is, the intent is get time. And what are the entities we are expecting in that? Location. So where is the location? Location is here, New York. Should be a space there, but that's okay. So the offset is here, 16, which means that there are 16 characters in here. As you can see here, 16 selected, 16 selected. And how much is this? This should be 7 selected. If you look here, you can see that. So which means that the location start from here and with a length of 7, offset and length of the category location of this particular parameter right here, the entity. And the whole thing has the intent of get time. So what the model will do when it gets a text like this, it'll call the get time function, or it returns the get time intent with the parameter of New York. So what is the time in New York? We'll return after calling the correct function for the get time. We will see that in an example, the analysis example we'll see. So similarly, there are so many utterances we are given. So what time is in New York now? So another way to ask the same question. What about time in London now? So it all has different offsets and length. So if you look at this, London is the location. So this should be 19. From here to here should be 19. That's exactly what is here. Very clean data. And 6, that is this 6 right here. As you can see, it is 6 here. So like that, it is mapped. The entire thing is correctly tagged or labeled in terms of modern AI jargon or AI terminology. This is called labeled data for training. Very important thing for artificial intelligence, the data, the clean input data, the single most important thing as far as AI is concerned. Any AI for that matter. The data for training. That is exactly what we are looking at. If this data is incorrect, if this data is polluted, the training will be polluted. AI will be hallucinated. You give random stuff to the model, it gives random stuff to you. Garbage in, garbage out. So clean data is the single most important thing when it comes to training an artificial intelligence model. That's what we are going to do. We are going to give clean data. So 22. So if you select here, you will get 22 here. And Japan, so that is 5. Location is in here. So that is the time. So we have few time. Now the intent send. We were seeing the intent get time until now. Now the intent is send. Send Kathy a calendar invite. So contact. So that is the parameter here. At 5 offset. So this is offset 5. And length is also 5. The Kathy is right here. So that is what here. And the intent is send, not get time. Now, similar things are getting repeated with different names and probably different wordings and utterances and things like that. In this case, it's almost same, but you can give different types of sentences. So that is the training data. Feel free to have a look at yourself. There are a couple more fields there, not really important from our discussion perspective, but the idea is exactly same. Now we are going to do pretty much exactly same thing we have done for that image custom vision thingy. We are going to train this thing after importing the data. We'll have a look at the studio before that, the conversation studio, to have a look at how these things are going to look before the training. After the training, we'll have a look everything, including that performance parameters we have seen in the case of image. So from then on, the code is pretty straightforward. 3-4 functions we are calling. Begin import project and giving all this data. That is the main thing we are doing first. Then training, begin train. And then deployment, getting that URL out for the inference or prediction. That's what we are going to do. So before we execute, let's have a look at the studio of this. So now we are going to look at how we are going to create the endpoint and things like that. Again, we have logged into the Azure portal. We have seen this multiple times. I'm going to click on AI services. In this case, we are looking at language services view. So we have option to create different language services here. I have created one. This is the one we will be using. You can click on create in your case, and we'll have different options here. So a couple of things we can select here. I'm selecting both to get all the features available when we create. So custom question answering and all these other things. These things we will see shortly in the following demos, and continue to create your resources. Again, same process. We select our resource group and name and stuff like that. Pricing tier. So give some unique name. Almost always this name has to be unique across Azure because your URL will be part of it. So a couple of things we have to create here. The storage account. So type some name for it and select some category here. So click here to understand more about the storage account types and cost related to it. So most of these things are not free. I have already told about it. Now review and create. So it is deploying, and once the deployment is finished, we'll get an endpoint. So the deployment is complete, and coming back to the language services, we have a new language service here. I'll be using this one, but this is the one we have just created. And this is the endpoint, and here is the keys for that endpoint. So along with that service, it has created a couple of other things like the storage account we have given here, then a couple of different things as you can see here. For example, the search service and things like that to support that particular endpoint. So the model will be using all these endpoints internally, and make sure that when you delete it, you delete everything and make sure that everything is gone from your account and will not charge you further. That's an important thing to take care if you're doing this demo by yourself. I have all these extra things got created because I have selected all the options. The extra options I have selected. That's why all these extra things have come up. Now going back to the service, one of the things I would like to show you is the language studio like this. So if you click on here inside the endpoint or the service, bottom you can see the language studio right here. Or you can go to this particular URL, language.cognitive.azure.com directly. So feel free to explore this. So view all projects, and you need to log in just like you are logging into the Azure. I have already logged in. That's why it didn't ask me to log in again. Otherwise it will ask you to log in because it's a different URL altogether than the Azure itself. So I have already created a project. That is a project we are going to look with that training data which we have seen in the code. So this is the intent and entities we are going to get when we train the model with that training data. We have seen that JSON we have seen in the code. For example, there are two intents, get time and send. They were same in the JSON as well. Now entities, the contact and location, again 19 and 8 utterances labeled. So this has schemas, projects, data labeling, couple of different things are there, training jobs. Feel free to explore all this. We'll shortly delete this particular training and we'll create from scratch. We'll get the exact same output, but for the time being, I'm just showing you how it looks, the schema definition. Pretty much exactly same as that JSON we have seen in the code, just that we are seeing the same thing in UI. So if you click on get time, we'll get into the training set. So training set we have seen, for example, what time is in New York. So it is a location. So same information in JSON in a very UI friendly manner. This is easy to understand rather than going with that offset and things like that. If you want, you can change these things like so. It's pretty intuitive that way. But if you're doing a production project, always keep stuff in code. Very important. Version controlled code. The training data should be version controlled so that you will know what you are doing. So this particular data, this looks incorrect. If you look at here, the Delhi is supposed to be here. This training data is wrong. It is very difficult to find out from the JSON, but it's very evident from the UI. So we can correct it in the training data if you want, but for the time being, we can just ignore it. But we will verify this Delhi is indeed wrong in our training data. Let's have a quick look. So this is the Delhi one. So it should be 22 instead of 17. So the UI is correct. So 22 and it should be 5. So we have corrected it and I'm going to save it. So by the time you see this, it will be correct because I've corrected it now. Everything else looks okay to me. All the utterances, we have fixed this particular problem. So these are the get time. So whenever we get this, the model will say it is get time and it'll try to find out the place. So that is the training set for get time. Now comes the send one. This is a send intent. Send Kathy calendar invite. Looks pretty okay to me. Different names, pretty much the same sentence. Try to give different sentences, but in this case I was just copying and pasting to make different utterances and things like that. This is not a very good training data per se, but it is the exact copy of the JSON like I was saying. So these are different training jobs. We have already done training using those examples or training data. So if you click on this, you will get different information about the training which has happened. So this is the model parameter or the model performance. So again, we have three things: the F1 score, which is a combination of precision and recall. We have seen precision and recall, pretty much similar things as the image. Precision is all about how much precise it is about one particular prediction. Let's have a look. Micro precision score compares correct predictions of each intent to all predictions of each intent. So this is all about false positive and false negative, these two, recall and precision. It is a good metric to look when the cost of the false positive is high, such as email spam detection. So false positive, which means that it is telling a wrong intent. That is when this particular counter becomes interesting. Now this is the other way. It is all about false negative. So it is not giving an intent. What is the time in India? And if it is pointing to something else other than get time, then this recall will be something worth looking at. So you can click on this to read more about it. So these are more information about how to train the model and take full advantage of things. So then there is this deployment. So deployment is the publishing of the trained information. We have this deployment called production. You can pretty much name whatever it wants or whatever you like. And here is how we test a deployment. So we can select the deployment here and test it. What time is in Melbourne? This is the wrong spelling for Melbourne, but let's see what the model is going to tell us. So we are giving wrong information purposefully. This is not the spelling of Melbourne. So this is all how the user going to give. We are not expecting everything correct from the user just like this. Even the question mark is not there, but it is pointing to get time with the confidence level of 83%. And location is Melbourne. This is not a place within our training data, but it has correctly found out with that spelling error, totally ignoring that spelling error. Very good, reasonably clean information. Another one is, can you send Joe this email? Let's see if this is able to find this thing out. Yeah, the intent is send and it is correctly able to find out this particular piece, the name of the person. So the model is pretty good from what we have trained it so far. Definitely this statement is not there in our training data. You can check that. I'm not going to change the training data. So this model is pretty good, working fine. It really understood what we try to teach it. It is behaving like a human being that way. Pretty good, but all in all, it is looking pretty decent. So this is how you test your deployment. And of course, this part will be coming as JSON to your code like this. And we will see that in the code, the confidence scores and things like that. The confidence score is pretty high for send and pretty low for get time. So that is all I wanted to show you in the studio, but feel free to explore the studio. There are a couple more things here. I have not explained everything, but feel free to explore. Now let's get back to the code. Before that, what we will do is we will just delete this project so that we can have a fresh training done. So to delete this, you can just click on that thing and delete. So the project is deleted and all the training is gone. So we are getting back to the code. So we'll name this project something meaningful, get time and send. So I have just renamed this project just to have a better name, and the deployment name is production. I have not changed it, somewhere there in the code. If you want, you can change all those things. There's the deployment name. I'm going to keep that as same, not changing. Now this is the endpoint we are going to use. I don't want to change the endpoint we have created. You can use the endpoint which you have created. So this was the existing endpoint in my case, so I'm going to use that existing endpoint. So let's put a breakpoint somewhere worth putting rather than putting anywhere here. So this is all we have seen, just creating the client. Nothing interesting there, it's just a variable. This whole thing is just a variable, which is nothing but a dictionary in the end of the day. The whole JSON is a dictionary. So no point putting breakpoint in those lines. So we are coming down, further down. We are going to finish all these things and come here. So this is the first line breaking into. Feel free to break into anywhere you want when you try to do it by yourself. But for the time being, this is where I'm starting. So we have the breakpoint hit. We are giving the project name. This is the project name, get time and send. There's a T missing. That's on kind of purpose. No big deal. And this is our training data. So like I said, it's just a dictionary and we are giving everything into it. And it has assets, as it has entity, intents, and utterance. Feel free to expand it. Probably this is more readable for you. Just add this thing to the watch and explore it. You will get a better view maybe by looking like this, expanding each one of the item. So the principles are same. You ignore the special variables and functions and underscore things and look at what is really important. Now I'm going to press F10. So the project has created and data has imported. Let's see that. So there is no project right now. I'm going to refresh. So get time and send. The new project has created. Let's see what is inside it. As you can see, this thing has come up. So I'm going to click on get time. So we can see that Delhi thing has fixed because we have changed that in the code. Now it is correct. The Delhi thing is correct. It was before here. Now we have fixed it here. So this is our new project with the new training data. And any training job, there's no training has been done so far. It's just we got the data labeling done. Data has been uploaded, but the model has not been trained with the data. So that's what we are going to do next. So we are going to wait for this operation to complete, but I think it is complete. It is complete. So we are going to train the model. There's a model label. If you want, you can change all these things. Training mode is standard. We can look at the documentation. What are the other modes available, or the studio for that matter. Some of the items are not available in the studio, but the documentation will have all the information you need. Now here we are going to train, begin train, and we are going to wait. So that will take a little bit of time. 29 seconds is the last iteration took. Let's see how much is this iteration is going to take. So it has finished. It took around 40 seconds. Not exactly sure how much. The training is complete and we are going to deploy the trained project. Begin deploy project, the name of the project and the deploy data. So the deploy data is pretty simple. It is the name of the model which we have given above. Let's see, data we are giving to deploy. Deployment should be faster. The training is the most expensive or the lengthy part. Everything else remains the same. So it was around 5 to 6 seconds, the deployment. The deployment is complete and everything is good to go. Now we are going back to the studio to see the training results. So we are going to refresh this. So we do have a training job. So we are going to click on that. And this is the output model. It is the same data. So we are not expecting much of a difference from last time. All the model performance and all these numbers right here. So all the details you can get it here. There is some kind of slight inaccuracy here with the data. Probably this is not a proper name. So get time, not enough training in the training set. So you need to have at least 10. So try to give more and more data. So this is the confusion matrix. So you can read about it. A confusion matrix is an end-to-end matrix used for evaluating the performance of a classification model, where n is the number of intents, target intents. So basically, this determines the accuracy of the model. So feel free to play around all these tools they are offering. to fine tune the model with more data. But at the end of the day, it is the data which is going to predict accurate things. By looking at all these things, you can understand where you have gone wrong with your data. That's all about all these things. So although we got 100% pretty much everywhere, this time the precision is not 100%. F1 is also not 100%. It has given us some comments. Based on this, you can correct your data to get better results. Now, the final part of this whole thing is the analysis. We have a model. The model is working fine. Now what next? So we have a trained model with our custom data. Now, how do we use it? That's what we are going to see in this particular sample. This sample is about the analysis of the conversation. In fact, for this particular part, we've been doing all the hard work so far, training and things like that. So the function is analyze conversation. Everything else remains the same. So it is the object of this particular class we are creating right here. And the library which we need is this. In case if you have any confusion, search for pip install of that particular thingy and you will get right to it. So this is exactly what we want. Anyway, I will put it in the comment like this. In case if I'm missing any library comment like this, or you are looking at a wrong file in the beginning, the technique is always just copy and pip install. You should get it. If you face any difficulty, let me know. I'll help you find it out. So this is a pip install. If you don't know what is pip install, again, my previous training. So this whole sample is all about using the model. Like I said, first thing it does is taking an input from the user in a while loop. Until you say quit, I'll keep asking different things. You can type different things to the model. That way it behaves like a chatbot. Chatbot which does only two things: send and get time. And this particular example, it is going to ignore everything other than get time. So let's see how this is implemented. So we are creating the client here, the conversation client. Straightforward. This is what we've been doing so far. And this is the project. So we need to correct this project because we have changed that project name. So let me do that. Project name is, now it is this. So let me copy and paste. So this is the project name we have created. And the function we are calling is analyze conversation. So we are getting this text in this particular variable, user text. Where we are passing the user text? We are passing the user text in query. I don't know why we have created two variables. You could have used it exactly as it is here, but nevertheless, we are creating another variable for no good reason, but that's okay. It is passing right here as text, and kind of JSON we are passing into this particular function. Again, look at the details if you want, but mostly it is this text we are passing right here. Analyze conversation, that's the function we are calling, and this is how we are doing it. And the project deployment name, two important things we are passing here, the parameters, the project name and the deployment. Deployment slot is production. So basically we can have multiple deployments in a project, which means that we can have multiple different training examples published. All this is very useful when you have production deployment, the real production deployment. You have new data coming up, you want to test that new data, then update your model, typical ML ops or machine learning operations. Probably I'll take a different training for machine learning operations. It's another huge topic on its own might. But for the time being, all this is parameters for us. We are passing into the function. So the main thing we are passing is the project name, deployment, and the text from the user. Now, what we are getting? We are getting intent and entities. Intent and the entities. Those are the two things we are interested in. What is the intention of the user? User is entering a text. What is he intending to do? Another thing we are interested, the parameters from the intent. Get time in which place? That's what we are interested in. These are all some printing things right here. Normally we don't get into the printing. What we do, we look into the watch window. And if top intent equal to get time, we are doing some extra things here. Otherwise we are just ignoring. If it is not get time, we are simply ignoring. We are not going to do anything. So the rest of the code works only if it is get time. top indent equal to get day. Are we going to get this? No, we don't have a get day indent. We have only send and get time. Then why we have get day code here? Because this original sample had get day and I changed it to send in the training data. If you want, you can have a get day training data and corresponding utterances. But for the sake of changing something from the original MSD and the Microsoft example, I have just done that. It has get date, get day, and get time. In our case, we are going to get only get time. So technically speaking, this whole part of the code is not important to us. Now, what we are going to do in this part of the code, we are going to get the location, the entity, the category location we are going to look at. And we are getting the location. And then we are calling this function get time location. So let's go to it. Get time location. Go to definition and we have it here. The get time location is here. And in that we have different locations here. London, Sydney, New York, Nairobi, Tokyo, Delhi. And finally, we have a default place where we don't know what region is. So this is a custom implementation of the functionality. Again, there is implementation for get date and get day and things like that. We will not be executing it. Same with send. Feel free to modify this code such that it'll work for all the other things and change the training examples and stuff like that. But for the time being, I'm going to run this code without any debugging. Let's see if you're going to get any error. So I'm going to type what time is in Delhi now. So it has given us the time in Delhi probably correctly. I'm not sure if it is correct time, but it has correctly returned. We will debug this. Anyway, this is an infinite loop. What time is in London now? So 12:55. So that's around right. So this difference looks correct to me. It is working correctly. So 5.5 hours difference from the GMT, the Delhi time. How about time in Tokyo? So it has given some time in Tokyo. I guess it is correct. Now let's give a place which we have not handled in our code. And let's that be Melbourne again. Melbourne is not there in our code. Or maybe Perth. What time is in Perth now? I don't know what time is in Perth now. The chatbot has responded because we have not handled that in our code. Let's try to use different words and phrases which we have not put in the training. Do you know the time in London? It is correctly given. Please tell me the time in London. So that is the sentence. Again, it has correctly understood. Hello, explain me the time in London. It's a weird statement. No one really say that, explain me the time in London. I'm just trying different things to confuse the model. Looks the model is doing really well so far. So this is how it works. Let's put a breakpoint and look at what is happening. So this is where our breakpoint is going to hit. Line number 26 is where I have put the breakpoint. So this is going to get executed. 27 is better. That is the input statement. So let's type some query. Tell me the time in Delhi. Delhi is something which we have handled. So we got the breakpoint hit. So user text is tell me the time in Delhi. And what we are doing, we are giving that to the model. So F10, user text, query, tell me the time in Delhi. This is where we are analyzing the conversation. We are going to make the API call here. This is a project and the deployment. And the result will come here. Again, continue. And we got the result. Let's have a look at the result. So the query is tell me the time in Delhi. Prediction is get time, location, and things like that. So intent is get time. Confidence score is pretty high, 87. And entities, location, text, Delhi. Pretty much same thing we got in that testing in the studio. In fact, we should get the exact same result here also because it's the same exact API we are calling from Python. No difference. At the end of the day, Studio is nothing but a API client. Let's not forget that. It is also calling the exact same API from a different programming language, possibly JavaScript. So no difference there. Again, we are getting the entities from the result. These are the locations, not hard to find out from the debugging output. We are printing all those things. This is not very interesting. We are going ahead to line number 80. So I press the button twice. I need to redo this. So I'm just moving forward. Okay, so this is the place where we want it to be. So we are just going ahead within the loop and calling the function after all the checks and things like that. I'm just going into the function F11, then F10, and now the location is Delhi. So we should come ideally here. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here in this else if and going to go directly there because no other line we are going to execute. And we are calling this. This function is not a current function, it's a deprecated function. That's why it is grayed out or striked out inside Visual Studio Code, which is good, but that's okay, it's working. It's not the topic here to focus. And we are going to simply return that string and print it out in the chat window. So the example is pretty straightforward, very similar to something we have been seeing so far. The prediction part is straightforward. We are calling the API with the user input and pointing to the project and the deployment, and it is getting the intent and the entities given in the user text. Typical natural language NLP processing. And it has taken the text very accurately. The predictions were pretty good. I have not tested the send intent because we have no handling for the send intent, but all in all, looks good to me. So we have seen the code working, and we have seen it's very similar to custom vision we have seen in the studio. Let's see some more useful features of language analysis.